the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Right lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper.
Well, hello guys. So Ozone 9 is out, and here we are. We're going to have a little look at some of the new features and maybe just have a bash at reimagining a master of this track, Connect. If this video is helpful for you and you enjoy the track at all, please, I'd love it if you could jump over to Spotify and search under Connect and have a listen to the full and finished song. That would mean a whole lot to me. So let's see what we can do with this guy, just so you guys know what I've got up on the screen, what's going on. We've got Ozone 9 loaded up here on the left hand side, and I've got the tonal balance control, which is part of the Ozone Neutron package over here on the right. On the right hand side, this like blue fat line that's going along with like a thinner white line down the middle. That's a noise profile from Pendulum Plastic World. And I just know that to be a really good balance. And just having a look at that, I can see that my mix sits pretty well in that space. Like if we take this chunk here, we know we're already in like a pretty good area, but we're just going to look to tweak that and really solidify the mix. So watch the line that pops up over here on the balance control, and we would just want to see it roughly within that space. We know it's in that area and it's good.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Right lyrics till my finger.
Just mute that out for a second. So we can see that I've maybe got a little bit higher low end than necessary, but it's not breaking out of the overall threshold. It's doing okay. And then we can see we've maybe got a bit of a dip around 2K, but for the most part, all in all, it's sat where it should be. So we know we've not got anything wild. Now having a quick look at the file, there's a little like spike just around here in this particular bounce of the mix. So just play through that. I'm 99% sure it doesn't cause any issues. You don't even hear it. It's just a visual thing.
Double danger, I'm a draw for my subliminal saver. I'm addition of a limited rate.
There's no pop or click there, so we know that's good, and it is just like a visual thing popping up with Logic. So what's the first thing that we'd probably address? So usually I'm going to look at EQ first and get in an overall balance bang on. I'll sometimes do dynamic EQ first and sort of work that in as kind of a compression area, but in this case I'm thinking EQ first, and we're going to just try and ever so slightly balance out that low end so we can in turn bring up the high end without everything else shifting way out of space. So just going to make a nice little loop here in Ozone. I've deleted everything because I don't like starting with the preset because it's frankly useless to me. I need to start with whatever's going to suit my track. Hit this little guy over here, and we've got all the plugins that can load up inside Ozone. Now I'm using Ozone Advanced 9, so there's a couple that wouldn't necessarily be in the standard version, but for the most part you can do everything. So I'm going to grab EQ1, and we are just going to sort of balance that out a little bit based on what we need and based on what sounds good. So I'm going to mute the mic for a second and just do that.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beat in the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind.
Alright, so we're giving that a quick balance out, and we can see it's sort of helped with that low end, especially doing that roll off. There's obviously some real sub going on that I just don't need. Some of our high end could do with a little bit of a lift, but that tiny lift as well, just around 3Ks, just help bring everything else out as well. If we just switch it off and listen.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the cleft. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death.
That's the tiniest adjustment, less than a dB, but just all the vocals just suddenly pop back out in the mix, which is bang on what we're after. So we've started making a bit of progress already. Now we can see this section, if we look at the waveform, moves up and down quite a bit. There's no compression on it, and there's some different live elements that happen, especially as we move into the section here.
Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited.
We haven't got a huge mix change, but it's quite a dynamic change. So we're going to have to sort of break out a section here and maybe look at compressing the whole lot as well. So next in our chain is going to be a happy little dynamics compressor. I'm not entirely sure we need to go multi-band yet. I'm just going to do it as a single band for the time being. I feel I might need to split the low and the high, but let's see how it pans out and see if we can get what we're after.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited raver, smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us, and no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. To connect, I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited raver, smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us, and no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. To connect, I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited raver.
Alright, so we've gone for what turned out to be to
connect, I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited raver, smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us, and no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. To connect, I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited raver, smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us, and no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. To connect, I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm addition of a limited raver, smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us, and no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. To connect, I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger, facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver, smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us, and no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. Yeah.
Alright, so we've completely disabled the limiter, definitely didn't need any of that. We've ended up going quite a slow attack, like 60 millisecond attack, and quite a slow release, but it's given that nice flow. Even though it's quite a fast track, it's got that vocal riding under it, a much slower BPM, and that worked a little bit nicer. Only taking out sort of like 2 dB at any one time, and that was on sort of the loudest, most dynamic section. So in other places, such as here, we shouldn't even see it really affecting it.
Be on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Write lyrics till my fingerprints split. Hit hard till the limiter's red. As we move we let the beats connect.
Yeah, so on the breakdown there it completely goes away, and it's only taking like half a dB out of some other sections. So we're not over compressing it, but we are just gluing it together a little bit. Now instead of using manual gain, I've auto gained it because it was nice to match it. What I would probably do now is switch the auto gain off, give it what I know to be about just 1.5 dB up.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the.
And that matches pretty nicely level wise, so we're in a good space there. So that's all we've done so far. A little bit of EQ, literally rolling off some of that low end because we had a bit much in the mix, bringing up a little bit of 3K, and the tiniest bit of compression going on. That's all we've really had to look at just to get the mix sounding as we want it. Now, another big thing about mastering is you're going to check for issues and problems that have maybe occurred in the mix. We already had a look at this little spike here, and we know it's just a visual thing that's happening inside Logic. It doesn't actually clip, so we don't need to stress about that. But we do need to make sure that things like they're mono compatible and there's no kind of craziness going on. A couple of tools inside Ozone we can do for that. So we've got the Imager for one. And Imager can let us see how mono compatible our mix is, especially with the vector scope over here. So we're going to have a little look at that and make sure there's nothing crazy. We're going to try flipping the sides and see if anything disappears in the mix and if we can fix that.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said
so we're rolling quite nicely around the +1 here, nice and mono compatible, nothing stretched too to the sides. When the snare goes off it's getting some like nice side sound, but for the most part all good, no stress about that. Now let's say it was a problem. What we can do is use the multiband and bring just those areas down. Let me show you how we would fix that if we were having an issue.
Steam on my breath, condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky.
So we're going to switch the multiband on by adding a new channel here, a new marker. It gives us a nice split there. And what we'd do, we'd solo it out and listen for where the low end is going to be. And keep an eye on the vector scope to see any craziness going on. There's still quite a bit happening there, but we're still well within range that we're not going to be phase cancelling. What we could do is take the real low end. If there's any craziness going in there, just absolutely zero it out. So check this out. So look at what we've done there. We've taken it below the snare drum. We've got the absolute bass of the voice and just the kick drum and sub in there. By taking this band 1 width down to -100, it sums them together and gives us a perfectly mono signal. Now, this could work for us. We didn't really have any issues like this. Just a bit sloppier. We could just maybe bring it in, just hone it in just a little bit like this. Just we've got that bit more pounding in the kick.
I make you take it deep in your head. Write lyrics till my fingerprints split. Hit hard till the limiter's red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me
Yeah, that works quite nicely. We can play the opposite game as well. We could go, say, like 6K, solo that out, and we could look to really spread that out and see how that affects it. Yeah, so we can go from like deadpan right down the middle to completely spreading the mix out and around us. Our balance is here in the middle. There's a bit of it happening, but not a massive amount. So let's give it a little bit extra and blend it with the rest. If it works, we could maybe go with something like this.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Right lyrics till my fingerprints split. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture.
I mean, that's kind of cool. So it does, if you really listen to the hi-hats, when it snaps back in, you just feel them sort of separate out a little bit from the mix. Let me do it just on this section here for you. So really focus on the hi-hats. I'll switch it back on and they just kind of jump a little bit out more in the speakers. If you've got headphones, you'll really notice it.
Connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for massive limit.
Yeah, it's quite nice. It's maybe a bit much. We'd dial it back just a touch. You know, we don't need to do this. This is like a bit of a flair that we can do. And if it helps give that nice stereo width, then it's part of the mastering process 100%. We're here to fix problems and make the mix sound the best it possibly can. We're still sitting nicely within our range here, but just to test it and make sure nothing disappears, we're going to use this tool just here and just do a sum to mono.
Connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing.
So that's a perfect mono sum. We can still hear like the hi-hat, the vocal, the snare, the kick drum, the bass. Nothing's getting lost.
Facing unbelievable. I'm a draw for my subliminal saves. Connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger.
And it sounds sick once we put it back into stereo. It's just that little mono check there. Bringing that section down on the low end does just help the kick stand out a little bit, so we're going to roll with that, and that little bit of flair on the high end is quite nice as well. Now if we go back and have a look at our tonal balance control, something else I would be doing at this process is listening through some of my reference tracks as well, just to really check how they sound and feel. Can't do that on YouTube, so we're going to be using tonal balance and just really dialing into what we've got in the performance here.
Connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saves. Connect. I put my thoughts on paper.
Yeah, so something we can see here, we're overcooking a little bit here, but the mix sounds nice. Even though we've got our boost at 3K from before, we're still missing out a lot of the 2K range, which is really where the vocal sits around. So something you can do for that, or this kind of little trick, is to use a exciter or a saturator or something. So we've got exciter in here. I'm going to put this before the imager. And I'm going to focus it around that 2K range, and I'm basically going to overcook that range a little bit just so it's got more frequency in it and it balances out. Instead of just boosting the EQ, I'm going to add more in that space just to help it stand out in the mix. So we're going to split the band. We're going to have to split it twice here. I'm going to bring it up to sort of the 1K range. We're going to split it again and probably bring it down to around the 3K range-ish. And we'll have a listen to that. That should be bang around this area that we're suffering that big dip.
I put my thoughts on paper.
And it absolutely is. So what we want to do is basically distort it ever so slightly, and we can blend the mix to get exactly what we're after. We can change the modes here. We are going to start with just warm because it's going to add some nice harmonics and over push it and see what we get.
You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saves. Connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger.
Yeah, that's still not giving us enough, so let's try some of the other combinations.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber.
Alright, so retro's kind of giving us what we're after, but way too much with that boost. So let's just bring it in till it's too much, and then we're going to bring it back down and maybe adjust the mix just to balance it out.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal
yeah, so 8.3, that's a bit much.
I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger.
Alright, so check that out. So without, and you can even see it visually, there's a nice big dip here. And when we bring it in, it evens out that mix. It just helps the vocal feel really solidified. Even though we're just working with a mix, we've isolated that area and just made it pop out a little bit by distorting just that one little section. Super useful way to help things pop out and rebalance. Ideally, you could go back and do that in the mix, but equally, the mix sounded good. It wouldn't necessarily be something that cropped up until this stage. You kind of need to process things like this all in one go anyway. So let's check it out. Let's A and B it. So I'll play it back without, and then we'll bring it in, see if we like it, see if we suddenly hate it.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect.
It's maybe just a touch overcooked, so we'd dial it back on the mix to like sort of 60. But it's doing what we were after, which is ace.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect.
Now that's cool. So it just helps the vocal snap out a little bit more. We can really latch onto it much quicker. Still maybe a little bit harsh, but I don't want this video to go on for weeks at a time, so we're going to keep moving on. Now something else that has cropped up is there's a little bit of extra harshness happening in the vocal, I think just above 3K. So we could maybe even go back to our EQ here and look to dial that out with a really narrow band.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber.
There it is. Cool, so it's kind of in like de-esser territory. So actually, instead of EQing it out, I am going to multi-band EQ it. That's just the right sort of thing. So let's just take note, because we just grabbed it there. So 4,200 approximately. Let's get our dynamic EQ even, and let's take you to the approximate place that you existed. And we'll dial it back that way.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber to connect. I put my
So nice reason to use dynamics on that. It wasn't there all the time, but now when it is triggering and it is really prevalent, this can just dip it down, control it by a few dB for us, and it sounds a little bit better already.
Let's connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable.
Cool. I'm just going to take a little chunk here, switch off ozone and just A/B the whole lot, and make sure we're not getting lost as we go through this.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Right lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver. Smashing out holes and craters. When we dance nobody make us. And no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Write lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver. Smashing out holes and craters. When we dance nobody make us. And no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd.
Sweet. Now to me that is sounding pretty good. We've come a long way in the mix. The vocals now always front and center. We can hear it all times without sort of losing any of the phrasing. The kick gets sort of nicely isolated by using that imager. The little bit of harshness in the top vocal by giving it a lift. We've dialed back with the dynamic EQ. We're doing good all round here. Just so we don't run forever and ever, I think one of the last things we'll look at doing, just to tie this up and look at a few of the techniques we've done, is just to see if we can get the level out of it we're after as well. So we're going to go for sort of an RMS level, I think, unless we can do a new LUFS in here. Let's have a look. Oh, we've got integrated LUFS measurement now. Isn't that beautiful? Cool, so now we've got a LUFS measurement. Let's look to do that around somewhere, I think -14 is currently Spotify standard. Let's make sure we can get the right sort of levels out without any issues. And I like to use the vintage limiter, believe it or not, even though everyone goes on about the maximizer and what the IRC 3 and 4. I personally really like the vintage limiter, so we are going to roll with that for today. I am going to put True Peak on though, and I am going to go into modern. So modern vintage, ironic, right? So let's see if we can just get some nice levels out of it now.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Write lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver. Smashing out holes and craters. When we dance nobody make us. And no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Write lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver. Smashing out holes and...
Alright, so having a nice listen there. One of the things I think we can get away with is really sort of lifting up the high end. I say really, a really subtle lift in the high end. One thing I would criticize on here, the LUFS metering, that's not detailed enough. Like there's a 5 it's not dB, but 5 like LUFS difference here, and like when you're aiming for sort of the 14 area, that's just a bit pain in the arsey. Logic's one's actually way more accurate, but for today we are only using Ozone 9, so we're going to roll with that. I am going to go after the dynamic EQ, we're going to use equalizer 2 because we've got the ability, and we're going to give that the most subtle little lift up here just to bring some high end up. Yeah, back sandal's probably going to be alright.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I.
Now we are going to switch that so we've got a bit more control to the analog one.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Right lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect.
Yeah, that's nice. It brightens up just a little bit, lifts some air up in there. I'm also going to do a little trick of putting another EQ point after it, which is going to be a cutoff at 20 kilohertz. I would love it if this just went to like 22k, just so you could control your roll-offs a little bit more, but it is what it is. I think FabFilter is the one that I usually use that will let us do that, but this should still let us get what we're after, so we can actually push the lift a little bit harsher and then roll it off super quickly.
Yes, the words manifest like the steam on my breath. Condensation on my mind, beats bringing the rest. Riding through the beat and the clef. Yes, you're lucky I don't beat you to death. The struggle down straight, beat on the tread. I said listen to the words that I said. I'ma make you take it deep in your head. Right lyrics till my fingerprints bled. Hit hard till the limit is red. As we move we let the beats connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger.
And there we are. That's taken us pretty much to where we need to be. Let's just grab another section and we'll do a nice A and B. It's going to jump up quite a bit in level this time because we've given it the extra gain, but you're going to just have to take that for what it is. Let's have a listen.
Connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver. Smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us. And no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd. To connect. I put my thoughts on paper. Welcome to the torture chamber. You call me Mr. Cosmic Ranger. Facing unbelievable danger. I'm a draw for my subliminal saber. I'm a dishing of a limited raver. Smashing out holes and craters. When we dance, nobody make us. And no one here disputing the sound. That's why I stand up on the stage and I'm saluting the crowd.
Boom. So we've fixed a couple of problems. We fixed that vocal issue and managed to bring that up by using a bit of distortion and an exciter and just really make that pop out. I've used the imager just to sort of isolate the kick and mono it a little bit more so it actually sticks out a little bit more in the mix without losing any compatibility or having the levels changed. The tiniest bit of dynamic control, only 2 to 3 dB, just to glue everything together. Balanced out the low end with a shelf and a cut and a nice little boost here around 3k. And made use of the dynamic EQ to do a tiny bit of de-essing on the vocal in the master. Equalizer 2 giving us a nice bit of lift right at the end, and then the vintage limiter just giving us a bit of loudness on the modern setting with true peak on as well, just to take in anything that might have tried to get past it. Really I should bring the ceiling down to -1 dB because we're going over to Spotify more than likely, but as this is just a practice run because this track is already out, it's called Connect, so you can check it out on Spotify now. We didn't need to do that. We were just getting an idea and a feel for how Ozone 9 really works. I think I'll do another video and we'll have a look at the automated mastering and see how that rolls. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one.